Understand that a volunteering program, a volunteering project, it's a way to learn, to know better ourselves, to enjoy an adventure, to give something and to receive a lot.
You know, what is going to be the biggest takeaway from you? What is that placement going to offer you as a person?
Welcome to the Volunteer Support Podcast, brought to you by the European Union's co-funded project Promptus EDU, a collaboration between associations Audis Aut Mori and Building Bridges.
Welcome to a new episode of our Volunteer Support Podcast series. Today we are going to talk about the European Solidarity Corps program, the volunteering program funded by the European Union. To talk about the program, we are going to interview a special guest we have with us today, Jose Maria Imbert. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
We are so happy to have you here because we are going to talk about the program from a rulebook standpoint of view.
Yes.
So you are a former ESC coordinator and
correct.
Actual head of office in Building Bridges Association.
That is correct.
So we are so happy to have the opportunity to ask you precise question about rules and requirements asked by the program.
Perfect. Hit me with your best shot. I'll be super happy to answer the questions to the best of my abilities, and always trying to make sure that we can focus on how these rules are implemented to help the program flow better in benefit of the volunteers.
Before talking about the rules and requirements, I would like to ask you, what is the Solidarity Corps program?
Perfect. So the ESC, or European Solidarity Corps, is indeed labeled as a volunteering program, and it's designed to help everybody aged 18 to 30 access mobility opportunities in order to go and do activities in other EU countries. A lot of people focus on the volunteering part, but I think that it's about the solidarity. I think that's really the key element for the program that I would like to, I always like to focus on. And it's about, that solidarity between cultures, between countries. And that's a very important factor. There's other things that you can use the program for. Not to say that, it doesn't improve employability, which I know that you've spoken of before, I believe. But it's that, it's understanding that there is an ulterior sort of vibe to the whole program.
I completely agree. I think that this is one of the key words that should always stand inside the program. Solidarity, but also inclusion, diversity, because this is the program.
That is correct. And I think it's what I really like to make sure that people understand is that it's okay to have concrete objectives through through participating in the program, but it's also okay to be excited for some of those other things, like going out there and venturing out to give your time, either to a specific cause or for a specific organization or for a specific type of activity, because you're motivated by it, you empathize with it. So I think it's also okay, especially when you're in that what do I choose? Nobody wants to sound uncool and say, well, I'm doing this because it really is, a selfless act for me.
Yes, of course. And I was thinking about how large is the choice among volunteering opportunity in the programs. And there are different kinds of projects and different kinds of organization in different countries with different duration. Can you give us more details about this?
Right. Well, the first thing we need to understand is we're talking about 27 countries. That's already massive, when you think about it in terms of how much choice you have. But then the offers from each country are just so varied, and there's so many. There really are a lot of organizations. There's a very strong European sort of, fabric in cooperation and working, grassroots organizations that are there and are part of the program, and every day a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's wonderful to see, but it also does create a lot of choice, so it can be very overwhelming for a participant, that's looking to see all of this and then say, well, where do I go? But it's a question of maybe just understanding a little bit more about yourself and understanding where you might see yourself or what you want to test out.
Wow. Could I participate in a 12 months volunteering program or a short one? What are the choices that I have?
Well, I mean, I do love you, but I think you're above 30 at this point. But if you were of program age, you could definitely participate in several, actually, opportunities. Now, there has been a recent change, and I think we were discussing this off air. And it's a very recent change because it's been implemented in the new guide for this year. And before, the standard was that you had access to a short-term volunteering first, and you couldn't do more than 59 days. And then you could also access a long-term volunteering after that, which could be up to 12 months. So that meant that you would be able to be within the program for about 14 months total. Now, that changed last year when we started seeing the outpour of Teams volunteerings, because Teams volunteerings were then something that you didn't have to do in order. So you could do before, you could do after, and you could do multiple. And that really changed the dynamic of the program, and I think that extended the shelf life for the participants in a very important way. So that's and now it depends on, of course. I'm going to reverse the question to you because we were discussing this, and I think at this point you actually may be better informed because you have the guide with you.
Yes, of course. With the 2024 guide, there are even more opportunities for young people thinking about applying for a volunteering project, and I think that having the opportunity to participate in a short term as a team project could be a really amazing chance to test what is a volunteering project. So maybe having the chance to participate in a short program before can give the opportunity to know what is a volunteering project. And this is a message for our listeners. I know a lot of young people that after participating in a short programs decided to participate in a long one. So I think that this could be an opportunity that everybody could think about it if you are thinking about enjoying the program.
Yeah, and also I think we've mentioned a very important resource, and we've mentioned the program guide, which is available to everyone and anyone. And you can just go into any browser right now and type in, ESC program guide for whatever year you want to see it. Because we, of course, are tackling the newest ones this year, but perhaps you're listening to this hopefully sometime in the future. So just make sure that you reference the guide and specifically the section of who can participate. And there you'll be able to find out all that information and see if any changes have been implemented. The program is a living program, so it's in constant change, constant improvement.
Yes, of course. We never know when the guide will change again and how things will change in the future. So always look at the direct information. This is always a good idea. And talking about official channels, I would like to ask you, where do people can apply for volunteering programs? Is there any web page where they can look for volunteering programs and opportunities, and where can they send their application?
Perfect. So the EU has established the European Youth Portal as sort of the central web page for opportunities and mobilities for youth and young adults. So that would be your go-to. That would be your go-to web page to try to find this information. There's actually very useful information on the program. There's very useful information on some of the conditions that are, attached. There's also a great search feature I know that it's currently looking to be improved because there's more filters that are needed, but you are always going to have the main ones. You're going to have country, you're going to have type of activity. I believe you can already filter by duration. So it really depends on, what you're looking for, but you can definitely go to the European Youth Portal and make that your sort of first stop.
I was thinking about applications.
Okay.
And I would like to give some tips to our listeners, because we all know that to apply for a project, we have to have a curriculum vitae in English and a motivation letter. Mm-hmm. So the curriculum is quite easy to do it. Most people know what it is, how to fill it in. We also know that there are lots of tools online that can help us in writing down a good CV. But what is a motivation letter? Because I've been asking a lot from applicants information about motivation letter. How can my motivation letter have something special compared to others? Because we know that there are lots of applicants to the projects. The projects are open to different countries, and an organization can receive up to 100 CV and motivation letter from applicants. So what would you like to recommend to our listeners when they are thinking about writing down a motivation letter?
Right. So you're entirely right. The program does establish that, you, in order to apply, you need to hand in your CV. And like you said, there's some really good tools out there in order to do that. In fact, there's some great EU tools that you might want to look at because they're very useful in that sense. But when it comes to the motivation letter, it really is kind of left up to the participant. And I love that you brought this up because this is really the area of opportunity that I've seen. Because people think that maybe it's just like, it's just a presentation letter or a statement. And it's not. I mean, a CV is a standard format. There's very little information that you're going to put in there that tells me about your personality. And a motivation letter is called a motivation letter for a reason. You're supposed to put down your motivation. So it's a great tool for your personality to shine through. And sometimes, not everybody interviews in a great way. So you could always set the tone on that letter. If you're better, taking your time to write things down, this is the instrument for you. This is definitely the resource that you want to go to, and make sure that you set that tone for yourself. Now, I have 3 very direct advices that I give, or sections to create, or answers or questions that you need to answer in that motivation letter. Number 1 is, why am I motivated? What's motivating me to apply for that specific placement? That's the first one. And there, I think it's just a question for you to express your interest, for you to, your interest should be genuine in the application, or in the placement that you're selecting. It doesn't, just because I want to go to Paris, or just because I want to go to this small town in Belgium. That really is not of the full motivation. So here you can definitely go into a little bit of, what's motivating you, because you will be told about the activity. It should be there. It should, in the title or in the body of that placement or that offer, you should see what it's about. And, tell me what motivates you. Then the second one is the part where I always say it's super crucial. What is going to be the biggest takeaway from you? What is that placement going to offer you as a person, as a volunteer? You can really decide how you focus this. But, tell them what you're expecting from them. And I think that's a great thing to say, kind of like, well, this is what I'm expecting from you. And you know what, maybe it's something that you can use during the interview process if you're pre-selected, and say, hey, I did have this expectation. Is that realistic? And then there's the last question, which I think is the one that's most open to creativity, which is what I think I can offer to this volunteering placement. So it's then I'm focusing on me and what I know I can bring, or what I think I can bring to, having access to do that activity and by being selected.
Wow, I think that are really useful because it's important to understand that a volunteering program, a volunteering project, it's a way to learn, to know better ourselves, to enjoy an adventure, to give something and to receive a lot. And set the expectation before leaving for a project, and even before, when we are applying for a project, is important. It is important to set up what are we expecting from the experience, what we are expecting to do, what we are expecting to give, and what we are expecting to learn. And I really was thinking about the word genuine.
Yeah.
I think it's more an application with genuine intention and direct to the project that explain why you are really motivated to participate in this project. Has a lot. It has more value than 10 applications sent, but with no genuine interest. So I don't know. I was just thinking about that maybe 2 applications with a real motivation can be more useful than 10 without real intention.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I like using the word genuine, to be honest with you. I think, Dale Carnegie made it very popular as the pillar of, his entire theory on just, being sociable and learning to be sociable. It's about being genuine, having genuine intentions. And that's a very good point as well, because one more thing that I wanted to do, to say regarding the motivation letters, because it is something that we've seen, and it's important also to say that I'm a big fan of technology. I think technology is amazing. What we have now available to us in the form of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is an amazing tool, and it's amazing what we can do. But we've been seeing a lot of applications where people are putting out great text, and you probably gave it a magnificent command, ChatGPT, but this isn't you. I'd rather that you take the time to be yourself. And, this goes straight to the part that this program really, for as big and long as the handbook is for the program, it really is more for organizations to make sure that, everybody's working under the same quality criteria. When it comes to the participants, this is very open. So the best advice that I could give you who are looking at a volunteer placement right now is be the best version and the most genuine version of yourself, and put that pen to paper and, let that shine through on your application. You don't need any help being yourself.
Yes, even because the program doesn't ask the participant to have specific previous experiences. So what organization asks for participating in programs is to be between 18 and 30 years old, having the
legal residency within the EU, and that's about it. And then just your motivation. Actually, as per the handbook, the participant motivation is valid criteria, because that's the one criteria that we actually have, to either dismiss or proceed with, an application from an applicant. So really, we can talk about the handbook back and forth, but most of that is for organizations to make sure that everybody's working in a cross-cutting way to benefit the volunteers' experience. But when it comes to the volunteers, there are no limitations. There are no requirements. Nobody needs to have a B2 in English or a C1 in English. Come as you are.
That's why I would like to dedicate this episode to all our listeners that sometimes are thinking about not sending their application because they don't have any job experiences or even high level of English. Don't be scared about this.
Please don't be scared.
Apply for a project, and you can leave a comment to this podcast in our platform if you want any further information, and enjoy your journey.
Indeed. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really do appreciate it. And, to your listeners, I wish you the very best. I know it could be a scary and daunting process right now, but I promise you that there's greatness on the other side of of that, fear and apprehension. And we're waiting for you there.
Thank you.